Welcome to Make America Healthy Again. Join Dr. Charles Antinori and friends as they share solutions, tips, and insights that only doctors know for creating better health. Here's Dr. Antinori.
This is Make America Healthy Again. I'm Dr. Antinori. Today we're going to interview my best friend, Doug Depice, who's been a teacher for 46 years. He was my best friend and then turned out to, he married my sister, so now he's my brother-in-law. But we've known each other for a long time. It's about the same amount of time that I was a surgeon after my residency, and he was a teacher. So Doug, you want to say anything about your background, Doug?
Sure. I always thought I was going to be a physical therapist or a chiropractor. And then I went to college. I took a biology class, and I realized that wasn't going to work. But I also took a painting class that I really thrived. It was like, unlimited experience there for me. So I said, gee, I really like this. I'm gonna give it a shot. But I always had artistic talent. I had it since I was like 6, 7 years old. I was always drawing.
I was going to say that because I remember the main thing I remember, I know you remember, was the Jaguar, the XKE collage that you used to have in your room. I mean, that was such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that was
I really
definitely common ground between the two of us.
Right.
When we saw that picture of the XKE, it was a forest green.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, that's my favorite automobile. You go, I said, I love that thing. And you said to me, I'm going to have one. And you did. A couple years later.
I had it for 20 years.
But,
it broke down 10,000 times in 20 years.
The beauty of it was the aesthetics of the automobile.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, design-wise, it was a jewel, it really was a specimen.
Right. I think it was Enzo Ferrari or some other artist said it was the most beautiful car ever made. It really was up there. But anyway, we got to get talking about we were talking, it's the Make America Healthy podcast. We're talking about art, as healing and helpful to survival. So give me any of your thoughts on that.
Well, years I had gotten, I had read a lot of books, some really interesting books like Education for Peace. Who was written by Herbert Reed, a great British art historian and critic. And I read all his books. Also, I came across passages. I started reading the Bible because Rembrandt read the Bible every day. And after I had come across the fact in his biography that he was reading the Bible every day, I thought, gee, maybe I should take a look at this. So I came across quite a few things that I really found inspiring. One of them was from the book of Proverbs. It said, where there's no vision, the people perish. And I just thought that was so powerful. The idea of vision, of imagining higher realms, of dreaming, of seeing something that isn't reality yet, but have it be your goal, like reaching for the stars type thing.
Right.
So I substituted the word synonyms, for the word vision. And I came up with, I would teach this in the class to the kids. So I'd give them the proverb and I'd say, well, let's substitute some words for vision. Like where there's no imagination, the people will perish. And think about it. If the cavemen didn't have imagination, we wouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. Where there's no freedom, we wouldn't have,
Stick as a weapon. And who thought of painting on the caves, telling stories and communicating without words? And it was their imagination. And so without imagination, without creativity, people will perish, And I just started to elaborate on this idea. And I thought, gee, the arts are so powerful. And I came across something I thought you would find interesting. And you may already know this, but there's this Dr. Keltner, Keltner, and he's a psychologist. And he did some studies, and he says art has a direct influence on health and life expectancy because it promotes healthy levels of cytokines. Do you ever hear cytokines? CYT?
Yeah, that's right, yes.
Okay, so cytokines help coordinate and regulate immune responses in our body. And so things like beauty, awe, and wonder, they excite the mind, the systems in our body to produce healthy chemical reactions. And I think this is really fascinating. And then I put that together with Education for Peace, the book by Herbert Reed, and he approached the healthy benefits of art from the Platonic point of view, which he went to the Greeks. And the Greeks believed that the making of things involved emotional and intellectual patterns that folded virtue in a human being. So like the emotional intellectual patterns such as, patience and empathy and compassion and understanding, sensitivity, and, awareness of process and relationship scene, kindness, reflection, patience. These are all patterns that were exercised in the making of things. And so when you look at an artwork, you're just not looking at what a guy did or a woman did on a piece of paper. You're looking at a multitude of processes, that are being acted out and forming what the Greeks believed was a balanced development of mind and emotion. Mm-hmm. So I saw that as benefiting, as contributing to the health of what your book is about.
Right. There's no question. Because, like I say, as a surgeon, that's sort of almost the opposite pole from psychiatry. Although, if I hadn't become a surgeon, probably my second choice would have been psychiatry. And one of my best friends became a psychiatrist. But even as a surgeon, there's no question, even our literature, the psychological state of the patient is tremendously important for their health. If a patient thinks he's going to die, he's going to die. If a patient, people are angry or, confused, whatever, their life expectancy is much less. Just anger and things like that, if nothing else, just raises your blood pressure, which, shortens your life expectancy just in the simplest mechanism, So there's no question that improving people's mental state improves their health state,
Right. And he went on to say, aesthetic awareness increases your moral character.
Yeah.
Because of all the benefits from those emotional patterns and making things. You have to just think about making something original. Consciousness is seen as functioning at its highest when it gives form to the formless. Like Michelangelo had blank walls, on that Sistine.
Michelangelo had what?
He had blank walls.
Yeah.
He perceived, he imagined, where there's no vision to people. He had a vision of what the creation of Adam would look like, of what last judgment. And just think, he took nothing and he created something that moves hundreds of millions of people every year, whether they see it in books or they go and visit, in themselves. It's like, and the other beautiful thing about the arts for me is I always notice, like when you're in a museum and you're looking at these masterpieces, people's behavior changes in front of brilliance. When they're standing in front of a painting, like one of your favorite paintings is El Greco's View of Toledo. I know that. Right. And I mean, you have to think about the effect that has on you, like the way it inspires you or elevates you or lifts you. I mean, and all those things, they're not measurable. And that's where the arts come into the gray area of where rational people continually cut the arts because it's not measurable. But when you think of the benefits psychologically of creativity, which is not a right or wrong area, it's like apples and oranges, you can't better than the other. You're dealing with an unquantifiable force here.
Right.
But the thing that it does for a human being, the way they begin to understand themselves. And then when they look at other people's work, I had kids in the classroom say, look at another kid with such awe after seeing an artwork. Because I said, gee, this is what Bildy did. And they go, Bill did that?
Yeah.
Go, yeah. And I mean, they saw him with totally new eyes. Which, really was a beautiful lesson.
Right. Let me interject. We were talking about like how every time I'm around town with you, inevitably we bump into one of your students or the mother of a student or the daughter of a student. You know, like you were saying now, the granddaughters of the students, you know, that comes into town. They're all so appreciative. It's really, you know, heartwarming to see it. We're going shopping somewhere and almost always somebody shows up that you taught art, you know.
I love that about. I mean, there are some teachers who said to me, "Why are you living in Seaquarters? I mean, don't you not want to see these people?" And I go, "I love seeing them.
Yeah,
I love bumping into people I know. I mean, there's so much history, you know, and there's
yeah,
you know, I mean, towards the last 10 years of my teaching, I would write letters, personal letters to each of the kids that were graduating.
yeah.
You got to see, we're ringing doorbells now because my daughter is running for office.
Right.
The people who come out to the door, they go, "Oh, I'll never forget that letter you wrote my son. It's so beautiful. It gave me goosebumps," or "I read it and I cried," and da-da-da. And I was just writing to the kid of things I observed in the year that they took my class, how they grew.
Yeah.
As a person and as an artist, you know. And I thought it would be important because you never know what word or what statement is going to open a door and ignite some kind of awareness or journey. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's kind of a beautiful thing. You know, and
yep.
I did, you know, when you telling me that you really love one of your favorite paintings was the View of Toledo, I mean, that gave me a different lens on you. You know,
Right.
Little did you know, but your sister Margaret, that's her favorite painting.
Is that boy? That's almost like it's genetic then too, isn't it? You know, whatever that evokes is almost in our DNA.
I mean, like,
It's not the most famous painting there, but every time I think we talked about it. You know, at Regis was right across the street from the Museum of Art, and we got in for, I think, for nothing or for a quarter or something like that with your student ID card. So whenever you had an afternoon where you didn't have anything else to do, that's kind of where we went. So I would go, and I knew exactly where the View of Toledo was, you know.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
a spectacular vision that he had, the way he electrified that sky.
Yeah. That's what impresses me. It's so stormy looking too, you know. It's scary looking almost, you know, the painting. Hey, let's switch gears. Want to talk about exercise a little bit, you know, Doug?
Oh yeah.
You know, just because kind of the way, in many ways. Well, I guess we had met before that, but we really never spent all that much time together until the summer. That was either 64 or 65 when we started working out together. And I think that really cemented both of our lifelong habit of staying in shape. You know, you really started it because you started with the weightlift, with the bodybuilding before me.
Leader program.
Yeah.
He had a warehouse, very small warehouse up in Union City on Palisade Avenue. And so I go there to get some weights. And who do I meet? But one of the guys who's in the books all the time was Harold Poole.
Yeah.
Harold Poole was a big guy. And, you know, I followed these guys. And then I wanted to go see, they just started the Mr. Olympia contest or something. And I went to the Brooklyn Academy of Music, is where they were holding this competition. And who was there but Larry Scott? Now, you and I worked on those exercise panels. These guys were the people who they, you know, photographed. And
Right.
so we looked at Harold Poole. I saw him on my chart to work out. There he is in real life. I see Larry Scott. I mean, it was just amazing. Union City was really jumping, you know.
Yeah.
And Joe Leader had kind of hit gold when he found well, Larry Scott was the first one to win the Mr. Olympia, but he found gold when he found Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right. That's the classic. Yeah. Not many people seem to know that either, you know.
Yeah.
I think I didn't even know it until I read like Joe Weider's obituary. He died like maybe 10 years ago, and somehow I stumbled across his obituary. I think it was in the Times, and they mentioned that he had bought Arnold Schwarzenegger. And then it mentioned a little controversy because Arnold Schwarzenegger won whatever it was, Mr. Universe or Mr. Olympia, whatever contest that Weider kind of ran, and people figured it was like a little bit rigged, you know.
Yeah, well, there were great people who could have won instead of Arnold, like Sergio Oliva. He's nicknamed the Myth. His body was just unbelievable. That's why he was nicknamed the Myth. And Arnold kept winning. Arnold won like Olympia like 7, 8 times.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Boy, but to me, that, like I said, that was one of the best exercise programs we ever had. And every time you read about exercise, people say try to do it with a partner. And we did that whole summer, every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. But I have to admit that was 1964 or 65. That's really the last time I had like a regular exercise partner. I just can't get anybody else interested enough, or we can't correlate our schedules enough.
Committed to do it. Yeah, but we had a good time with that, and we also had the speed bag down in my house. Well, we had the speed bag. We had the mat on the floor. We used to do all kinds of forward rolls and backward rolls.
Yeah, you were pretty good on the speed bag. I never. It takes time to get good at that. When I boxed, I got better. I had a speed bag for a while. I got better at it. Did you have the real little one?
Yeah, I had the little one, and I used to practice hitting it, holding kettle bars in my hand.
Oh wow!
Minutes. And then you take those kettle bars, and they were only 2.5 pounds each, but
yeah,
holding them up there really exercise your frontal delt.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Jeez.
You take them off, your hands are going they're going like an egg beater,
Yeah.
But we were really into health. We were into drinking buttermilk. I know.
Yeah. Of course, most of the things we were doing turned out to be wrong. Drinking buttermilk, eating steak, Well, they're not wrong. I shouldn't say they're wrong if done in moderation. But, so many things have changed as to what is the best thing for your health, since then.
I used to pour it on my wheat syrup, but I still think wheat germ was good for you.
Yeah, wheat germ is still in the good category. Yep. Yeah. They're still, I'm working mostly from these books. This guy, Michael Gregor, Gregor, that he wrote 3 books, How Not to Die, How Not to Diet, and How Not to Age. And very, very scientific books, very well written. The first one was translated into like 26 languages, and then with the money he made from the first one, he set up a panel that reviews all the articles written on nutrition every month, which is like 500 articles a month in the major journals. And he tried a couple of the things that he said that, one is he's really very pro-vegan. He's not saying everybody, you should never eat meat. He's not like epistolic about it, but he just points his research, and reviewing many studies seems to indicate that the vegans actually do the best. And every time you add something in, you lose a little bit. If you add in, eggs, you lose a little bit. You add in dairy, you lose a little bit. But you add in fish, you lose a little bit. But again, he just feels like if everybody just cuts down on, but the biggest thing is processed foods. He's the first guy I read. Now everybody's sort of talking about processed foods, but I read his first book probably 8 or 10 years ago, and he was talking about processed foods and processed meats especially. Basically, my son's diet's about the worst you can have. Slim Jims and things like that. That's one of the worst things you can eat.
Well, I don't know. Marilyn, your sister and I have always subscribed to everything in moderation.
Right, and that's true. That holds with me too. I really don't think if you eat meat once or twice a week and vary it, some red meat, some chicken, some pork, I think there's a pretty good chance that's not hurting you. The things that he really feels are bad, like hot dogs, sausage, other processed meats. Those I think are the ones that he feels are like the worst. The other theory that you hear is that the really lean meats, like Paul, my son-in-law, every year he kills one deer and gets it all butchered. And that's pretty much the main meat they eat. And, his feeling with that is that that's such lean meat, that really it's not bad for you. It's good for you,
I wanted to share with you about health and the diet. Da Vinci was a vegetarian.
Is that right? Yeah.
And you know who was a vegetarian the last year of his life? Was Einstein.
Is that right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And Da Vinci always felt like, I can't eat anything with a face,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? And here's a guy whose IQ was like, they're estimating like 180 to 200.
Right.
You know, so there may be something about this moving away from a meat-centered diet. You know what I mean?
Well, like I say, there's a lot of things in the book, you know, Gregor's books talk about like the fact that we really weren't able to handle fire until about 250,000 years ago, they think. You know, I mean, I'm sure there were fires before that, but before we actually learned how to like make a fire and use a fire on a regular basis, they're saying they think maybe 250,000 years. That means that there was like, you know, 6 million years of human history and millions of years of ape history before that, where basically we probably weren't cooking any meat. You know what I mean? You were eating fruits and vegetables for the longest time, so that, you know, our body was designed to eat fruits and vegetables. I always think about it when I look at the small bowel in surgery. You have like at least 20 feet of small intestine. You really only need about 4 feet to absorb all of your food. You know, and so I always wonder, like, what's that extra 16 feet for? And I think it's for the, you know, for the early days of human existence when you needed to get every last calorie, every last protein out of everything you ate to make sure that nothing went through you, you know,
Right.
undigested. You know, you absorbed everything that you ate. But, you know.
I see analogies between like your career and my career. You know, I mean, the benefits, the medicinal benefits of obviously your approach, which is definitely measurable, but my approach, which is definitely more poetic and aesthetic, you know, and how it affects and benefits the health of a human being. And then ultimately, you know, the benefit it gives to society. You know,
Right.
we really need this. I mean, your book. When I read your book, I really was thinking about Eric Fromm's book, The Sane Society, and he was talking about the effects of the economic structures and the psychological structures of materialism on our minds and how it really erodes our soul and our spirit. And you know, we have to think about keeping healthy people because healthy people create a sane society.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so whether the arts are contributing to the health, I mean, look at the amount they get, 25 to 40,000 people a day at the Met.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, so there's something.
Is that right? 25? Wow, I didn't realize that. Jesus.
It's amazing. 25. Well, when you think about it, think about the number of people who go to a stadium to watch a game.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You know, like that Met that's opened at 9 in the morning, 9:30, and particularly on the weekend, they are flooded with people.
Yeah.
Thousands of people going in and out. So it's like amazing, you know, that when you think about the interest people have in something that is about beauty, something that is about poetry. You know, Da Vinci always said that he viewed it, painting, he saw it as a science that makes poetry visible.
Mm-hmm.
His understanding, he didn't paint anything, he didn't read everything about it first. So if he was going to paint a blade of grass, he read everything in botany that they knew in the 1500s about grass.
Wow.
If he was going to paint the rocks, which he did in the Annunciation and the painting of St. Anne and St. Mary, which on the babies, Baptist and Jesus, he read everything about those rock formations that was known at the time in history. So for him, painting was a science, and then he took that knowledge and he made it into visual poetry. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. He only had like, what, 12 paintings, Doug, Da Vinci?
The 16 paintings.
16, yeah. You know, so he's...
Everybody thinks he did it in 4 years, but he actually worked on that for 16 years.
Which one was that?
The Mona Lisa.
Oh, the Mona Lisa he worked on for 15 years? Really? Wow.
Carried that with him all the time. Every time he moved, like from, you know, Florence to Milan, from Milan to France. That's the painting he took with him. And he kept
How long was that? It was his girlfriend, wasn't it?
Da Vinci didn't have a girlfriend.
No, it wasn't. It was what was it? Just a local girl or something? That was the model.
It was the wife of a silk merchant.
Oh, I see.
That was the wife of a silk merchant, and he was commissioned to paint this portrait for the silk merchant of Mona. And then, as it turns out, with Da Vinci, he's considering backgrounds, this, that, and the other, and the painting becomes a portrait not of Mona Lisa, but of the birth of humanity from the earth. The way all the forces of the earth came together to create a human being.
Mm-hmm.
The rivers, how the mountains, how the light and the air all converged to create this beautiful specimen that we call a human being. And it's beautiful because she's graceful, she's elegant, she's refined. I mean, not all human beings are refined, as we know from the headlines today. But, but like when you think about it, the Mona Lisa is not really a portrait about Mona anymore. It's a portrait about the earth and its forces and how they came together in their perfection over time, adapted to this, that, and the other, and made a human being with a heart, a mind, and a soul.
Right.
At the front of the painting, she looks like her body looks like a boulder coming up from out of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like one of the mountains in the mountain range of the landscape he put in the painting. So now I can't stop looking at the painting.
Yeah.
Because it became a geological and evolution. It became a study of evolution. It's not just a portrait. It's a portrait of evolution. And that's the beauty of it. Yeah. And if you want that, I got that idea from Isaacson. He wrote this biography. He's the one who wrote the biography on Steve Jobs. He got a Pulitzer for it.
Uh-huh.
So he wrote this biography on Da Vinci, which is just captivating. Our sister-in-law, Cindy Lee, bought it for me. And there's a chapter in there on the Mona Lisa. It's really the only chapter I picked through it 3 times. I just kept reading it. It was fascinating. I think
that's fascinating. Well, Doug, we might as well, we got to finish up here.
Yeah.
It was really great. And like I said, I'm going to be getting up there sometime in, next month or so, and we'll get together in person again.
Yeah. Buddy boy.
This was great. Thanks a lot.
This was good. I hope you enjoyed it.
I did. I think people will enjoy it. Thanks.
Okay.
See you, Doug. Take it easy.